For nearly 1,000 years, the Tower of London has guarded England's darkest secrets, and some believe the dead still walk its walls. It has been a fortress, a royal palace, a prison, and an execution ground. Its story is written in blood and stone, and tonight we explore why it is considered one of the most haunted places in all of Britain. Our story begins in 1078. Fresh from his victory at the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror ordered the construction of a mighty fortress on the banks of the River Thames. It wasn't built for beauty. It was a statement of power, designed to intimidate and control the recently conquered city of London. The White Tower, its central keep, rose high above the skyline, a stark reminder of who was now in charge. Over the centuries that followed, the fortress expanded, becoming a sprawling complex of walls, towers, and courtyards. It served as a royal residence, a treasury holding the crown jewels, and most infamously, a prison for enemies of the state. Its thick stone walls bore silent witness to centuries of political intrigue, betrayal, and violence. The tower's dark reputation wasn't just earned. It was forged in fear. Fast forward to 1483. England is in turmoil. King Edward IV has died, leaving his 12-year-old son, Edward V, to inherit the throne. The young king and his 9-year-old brother, Richard, Duke of York, were brought to the tower, supposedly for their own protection, under the care of their uncle Richard, Duke of Gloucester. But the boys were never seen again. They vanished without a trace from within the fortress walls. Their uncle was crowned King Richard III, and the world whispered that he had murdered his own nephews to seize the crown. For nearly 200 years, the fate of the princes remained a mystery. Then, in 1674, during renovations, workmen discovered a wooden chest buried beneath a staircase in the White Tower. Inside were the skeletons of 2 small children. Though their identities have never been conclusively proven, many believe they are the long-lost princes. To this day, visitors and staff alike report seeing the faint shadowy figures of 2 young boys, dressed in white nightgowns, holding hands, and gliding silently through the corridors of the Bloody Tower before fading into the cold stone walls. A few decades later, the tower would witness one of its most famous and tragic events. In 1536, Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII, found herself a prisoner within the very walls where she was once crowned queen. After failing to produce a male heir, she was accused of treason, adultery, and a host of other fabricated charges. Her fate was sealed. On the morning of May 19th, she was led to a scaffold erected on Tower Green, a site reserved for private, high-profile executions. Witnesses described her as remarkably calm, even offering a final, dignified speech before a skilled swordsman from France ended her life with a single swift strike. She was buried in an unmarked grave in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, a final indignity for a fallen queen. But her story didn't end there. Shortly after her death, the first reports began. A terrified guard on patrol claimed to see a ghostly procession led by a headless female figure gliding towards the chapel. Over the centuries, the sightings have become a cornerstone of the tower's legend. Anne Boleyn's ghost is perhaps its most famous resident, sometimes seen walking near the place of her execution, and other times appearing as a forlorn, headless form, carrying her own head tucked beneath her arm. As the years rolled on, the tower's reputation only grew darker. During the 16th and 17th centuries, it was a place of despair. Prisoners accused of treason were held in its cold, damp cells, often subjected to brutal torture in an attempt to extract confessions. Executions became public spectacles, drawing morbid crowds to witness the grim proceedings on Tower Hill. Within the fortress, the yeoman warders, the iconic beefeaters who guard the tower, began to share stories amongst themselves. These weren't tales for the public, but hushed whispers exchanged on long, quiet night watches. They spoke of shadowy figures moving along the battlements at night, of disembodied footsteps in empty corridors, and an unnerving feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. In these early days, nothing was officially documented. It was the stuff of folklore, passed down from one generation of guards to the next. A secret history known only to those who lived and worked within the ancient walls. Then, in 1816, something happened that was impossible to ignore. A sentry was on duty near the Martin Tower, where the crown jewels were once kept. It was late. The tower was silent. Suddenly, he saw a large, dark shape emerge from the gloom. He later described it as a hulking, bear-like creature that rose up on two legs. Frozen with terror, the guard watched as the figure lunged toward him. He raised his bayonet to defend himself, but the weapon supposedly passed right through the apparition. The guard collapsed, and his comrades found him unconscious moments later. According to the official record of the incident, he was carried to the guardhouse, where he died of shock shortly after. An official inquiry was held, and the story of the bear-like apparition became a chilling, documented part of tower lore, a terrifying account that moved beyond mere rumor. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, as the world outside modernized, the strange occurrences inside the tower continued, and if anything, they increased. Guards on night watch consistently reported inexplicable cold spots and a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread in certain areas. They saw apparitions in Tudor-style clothing drifting through hallways, only to vanish into thin air. One of the most frequently reported spirits was that of Lady Jane Grey, the 9 Days Queen, who was executed at just 17. Her sorrowful white figure was often seen near Tower Green, a tragic reminder of her short and brutal reign. Visitors, too, began to report their own strange experiences, particularly in the Bloody Tower, where many claimed to see unsettling shadow figures lurking in the corners of their vision. Despite the advent of electricity and the passage of time, the hauntings did not stop. The ghosts of the tower seemed entirely unimpressed by progress. And then there are the ravens. A famous legend holds that if the 6 resident ravens ever leave the tower, the kingdom and the fortress will fall. To this day, the tower maintains a population of at-large ravens, their wings clipped to ensure they don't stray too far. A raven master is employed specifically to care for them. While this is officially a tradition rooted in superstition, some of the human warders have shared strange observations. They claim that at night, the ravens sometimes become agitated, squawking and reacting aggressively to unseen presences. Is it simply a reaction to a fox or another nocturnal animal? Or are these birds, so closely tied to the tower's fate, sensitive to the spectral energy that many believe permeates the grounds? There's no scientific confirmation, of course, but for those who guard the tower, the behavior of the ravens only adds to the unsettling atmosphere. Even in our modern, skeptical age, the paranormal claims persist. Staff members who work in the tower today report doors slamming shut with no draft, the sound of heavy footsteps echoing down empty, locked-off corridors, and the chilling feeling of a cold hand on their shoulder when no one is there. Tourists frequently capture strange mists, orbs, and unexplainable shapes in their photographs, particularly near the chapel of St. Peter at Vincula, and of course, the infamous Bloody Tower. The Tower of London is now one of the UK's most popular tourist attractions. Its history carefully preserved and presented to millions each year. But its haunted history remains unofficial, a story told in hushed tones after the gates are locked and darkness falls. So, what is really going on? Is the Tower of London truly haunted? Psychologists might argue that a place with nearly 1,000 years of documented violence and tragedy creates a powerful sense of expectation. When you visit a place you believe is haunted, you are more likely to interpret ambiguous sounds and sights as something paranormal. This phenomenon, suggestibility, is well documented. But this explanation becomes more complicated when you consider the sources of so many reports, the yeoman warders. These are often former senior non-commissioned officers from the armed forces, individuals trained to be observant, disciplined, and not prone to flights of fancy. Are they all simply imagining what they expect to see? Or have they, through their long and lonely vigils, encountered something real, an echo of the past imprinted into the very stones of the fortress? The Tower of London has seen kings rise and queens fall. It has seen children vanish, heads roll, and oaths break. Its stone walls have absorbed a millennium of human drama, of triumph and unspeakable sorrow. And when night falls over the river Thames, when the crowds are gone and the ravens are asleep, some believe the past is not quite past. They believe it still walks the corridors headless, silent, waiting. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the dark history of the tower, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from the world's most haunted places.